Welcome to the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast for club owners, operators, and fitness professionals. Each week, host Bryan O'Rourke brings you an expert interview with a global influencer at the crossroads of fitness and technology. You gain the insights, tools, and inspiration you need to stay connected to the pulse for what matters most for your business in the age of exponential technologies.
Welcome, listeners. I'm your host, Bryan O'Rourke. This is episode 176 for the podcast. And today we have a guest, Ian Mullane, of course, a well-known guy and with Keepme AI, doing a lot of very interesting things in the space of fitness. I hope you enjoy our conversation. But before we get to that, please come by and see us on Tuesday night of next week at the HFA Convention Conference in Las Vegas for the FITSE welcome reception at Mandalay Bay. You can see the details in the show notes below. I look forward to seeing all of you. And then, of course, I'll be at the Core Health and Fitness or Core Fitness booth where we will be attending this year and looking forward to seeing everyone. And then, of course, a month later, we'll be in Cologne at FIBO. So a very busy few weeks ahead. I look forward to shaking hands and saying hello and giving hugs to anybody that wants them. Always great to get out there and see all of our friends and colleagues. So without further ado, let's welcome Ian to the podcast. Welcome, listeners. As I was mentioning at the start of the pod, I've known Ian for a number of years. We were just reconnecting. Ian, where does this recording find you? And thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me on. I'm in the UK. I'm at home at the moment. I'm getting ready for the PerformX exhibition down in Birmingham in 2 days' time. So I've just been running through my keynote and making sure that there wasn't too many errors for when I stood up on stage.
We were laughing about that before we got started because you and I speak a lot, and we were talking about the fact of how much time it takes to put those things together, but not everybody's that aware. I mean, you probably spent 100 hours at least, right?
You do, and to be frank, when people's expectations grow, your own expectations grow, and
right.
You get to the stage. It's not as you get older you get away with it. As you get older, there's higher expectations, so then you end up having to work. So yes, there's not one that goes by when you wonder, how did I get myself into this?
Well, it's a great privilege, but yes, it takes a lot of work. And, like you, I've been kind of a little bit ahead of my time when it comes to technology adoption. So I'm very, very interested in you sharing and your thoughts and you sharing those with our audience. So, of course, Keepme, we're going to talk a little bit about what your product does. And of course, you're going to laugh when I say this, the subject of AI experts is all over the place. So from your viewpoint, since you're kind of in it pretty deeply right now, what do you see in general about the adoption of technology in fitness, commercial, nonprofit, or facilities in general? In the past few years and today, what do you see as the kind of barriers for adoption of these tools in general?
I think from a conversation I had with you, Bryan, a few years ago, there was one of the challenges around adoption was the ability to actually utilize the existing systems to plug into anything new. So
right.
I build this new stuff, but if I can't get an integration into that core club management system, then that presents a challenge. That has changed to a degree. It still feels somewhat backwards in places, but the vast majority of the club management providers now have got APIs that tools like mine can take and run with. And for those that don't, we just had to be more creative. I think the appetite from operators has also changed. They're starting to see technology as an enabler, and they're starting to see technology maybe as a solution to some of the problems they have within the business, such as resourcing, which is an ongoing one, I think, within our market as a whole, but also because there are starting to be more demonstrable cases of performance due to technology adoption. And because of that, a lot are looking to replicate. It's that. Do you remember the book Crossing the Chasm? There, where
Yes.
there is the early adopters, and I think in the fitness industry, we know who they are, and then we're now at the stage where a lot of them are crossing that chasm. The more later adopters to try and extract some of that value. So I'm more optimistic around our sector's adoption of technology than I have been. I feel with the arrival of AI, that's going to have to be a lot quicker. The only thing that doesn't keep me awake on that area, I think, is because I don't. If they don't, then the challenge is going to be that these operators are challenging for discretionary spend in the entertainment space, and there are other players that will bring AI to bear a lot quicker, and therefore there'll be an open competition. But I think as a sector, it won't move as fast as maybe other sectors, and I think that there will be some element of disadvantage, but I think that it will come on quite quickly.
Yeah, I agree. And I think your answer regarding challenges in resourcing is very true. I mean, labor in general is probably the biggest challenge that exists in the US. I know there's challenges all over the world with labor. And you've got to automate processes because people aren't going to be able to afford not to automate those processes. Is that fair to say?
It's not only fair to say, it's more of a case that in certain cases, a lot of the processes which are being run are not being run very efficiently.
That's right.
And that's anything from sales funnels to retention programs. And it's not through bad intent. It's generally through shared responsibilities. And you run a big business. If when people say who's accountable for that, and the reply is, well, everybody in our business is accountable, that means nobody is accountable for it.
That's right.
And in some of the core aspects of an operator's operations, you generally see that some of the more important roles are not defined very well, and they tend to be spread across the business, which means that it's not really working. When you add automation into there, you do add certainty of execution. You may lose an element on personal touch, but at least you've got certainty of execution, consistency.
Yes, well, that's so true what you're saying. And it's interesting because as the CEO of this business, which we have 1,700 employees, I get my hands dirty in detail because if you don't, you really don't know what the heck's actually going on. And when you're trying to deploy these technologies into process, that's where the rubber hits the road. I mean, the words you just shared that's wisdom right there. And I think people many times underestimate the amount of work you have to do to enable these technologies to actually give you the benefit, which segues into the next question for you. What are some key understandings? Because we just talked about kind of operationalization of technologies. What are some, in your opinion, misunderstandings or misconceptions that folks in general have on AI, as they say? Can you share some insights on that? I'm kind of putting you on the spot here.
Well, no, I think it's a great question. I think that in the past, the AI that we would talk about would be predominantly machine learning, and machine learning would have a dependency on the data that the operator had that we would then take, model, and then do the prediction. And therefore, the comment would often be, you don't have the data that's capable of us being able to utilize it within AI. Okay.
Right.
With generative AI, it's a different type of challenge. It's not necessarily about your data. It's about employing the intelligence of a generative AI large language model to then carry out elements of task. So your historical data doesn't necessarily impact your capability to do it. So that means that at the moment, in many cases, you can be speaking to an operator and they've already decided that they probably don't have the data to be able to participate in the AI revolution, which when you have the conversation and say there is a possibility that predictive analytics, machine learning is not for you, but generative AI still is, you realize that they have basically lumped it all into this one AI aspect of it and not tried to differentiate the different streams and how that could impact their business.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And that's so true. Another profound insight. And then don't even get started on agentic and what that represents as far as what's even next, right?
And that is, that's where we've been going, Bryan. So for 2, maybe 3 years ago, I sat and did an exercise with myself, which was I was constantly telling people about the importance of AI and the impact of AI, but I often felt they would walk away from my presentation and say, he's been saying that for a long time and we're not seeing this productivity gain. And what I tried to do was to understand what specifically the roles and responsibilities AI could have within an operator that, if it was executed properly, would actually deliver that productivity dividend as such. And I realized when I started out, it was agentic orientated, that the foundation models lacked the capability for me to be able to deliver these things. That changed last year. Anthropic was the first to do this complex model. And then we obviously had the thinking and reasoning coming out from Meta and OpenAI and Google. And last year, I won't say pivoted, but we added to incredible success that we never expected, which was to build the first one was the AI agents. And the idea here was that when you look at the classic funnel, it's generally not well optimized, and it's because there's a lack of availability for people to engage. When there's a point of maximum intent, there's no one to actually engage, and there's no one to push through. So I built an agent that was available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, was trained on all of the operators, processes, information, but had the capability to make telephone calls, to book appointments, to do confirmations, follows up via SMS, a whole host of stuff. And that was the first time where, rather than sales team summed it up best. After they did the presentations, they came away saying that I woke up the following morning as one of the guys, and he said, you know what, when their sales are bad, they're not going to phone up and say, tell you what, I need to buy that Keepme CRM because that's going to change everything. No one's ever said that, right? CRM is an operational stack of tool, but differentiation's tough. But the AI agent, completely different. And we are now, I think we've deployed it at just over 2,000 clubs overall. We've done it at like Everlast in the UK, Snap over in the US and Australia and UK, the thing, Active Wellness, another one over in the US as well. And this tool is massively improving the sales performance on an autonomous basis being deployed, where we're seeing things such as 155% increase in leads, 200% increase in lead to next stage, tour or trial, and then a massive reduction in cost per acquisition. That is where I think we're going to see the massive difference in AI's impact in our overall sector. Is the capability for it to be able to take on those tasks and deliver them consistently 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and at the same time not have this reliance on the historical data issue that maybe some operators have had to deal with.
Yeah. It's so interesting how far this technology as a concept has come. When I think back on a few other people that were in the space trying to do this 6-7 years ago, and now, what you're seeing now and the tools that you're using and referring to, I mean, it's quite phenomenal what has occurred just in the last couple of years, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I'm even going to go further and say a couple of months, Bryan, right? Because, it's this time last year, I was still waiting for foundation models to change to build. And then suddenly March and then June we were out, and then you were starting to move. And then, you won't be surprised to find that the next set of tools that I want to build, we are already waiting for changes in foundational models that when they come in, we can deliver them. I think what operators are going to find is that an awful lot of their repetitive, high engagement tasks, whether it be in member services around class bookings, suspensions or memberships, that type of stuff, plus their sales stuff, will be removed. And it's a sector that sometimes has been under-resourced in those core areas. It doesn't mean, by the way, we're going to see reduction in force. What it generally means is that we can use those human assets to actually do what they do best, which is the one-to-one interaction, to bring them up whilst we are actually taking away that other aspect. And when we're doing that stuff at the bottom consistently, we're also going to improve the service to the customer. So I think we're finally at that stage, and ask me again in 12 months, and if I'm wrong, I'll probably be gone. But the reality is that I think that in the next 12 months, we're going to see a wider adoption. And I'm very excited with that. Yeah, we took on 8 new customers in January alone, another 4 so far in this month, another 2 to join on this week. There's the possibility, Keepme's expectation, we've got at the moment from the CRM and the prediction platform, 54 customers. We would expect to do double that just in this year, just in the agent product, which seems to relate to the enthusiasm from the industry to start engaging in a product which they can see demonstrably could help them.
Yeah. And so would you say in general, I'm sure you have different users, right? But do you find that the regional chains or larger chains are more adept to do this? Or is it pretty much, as far as the early adopters, do you see it allocated across a lot of different types of customers?
Do you know, it is definitely different. Listen, it's never going to be easy working with an SEB or Planet Fitness, etc., because, you know, they've got corporate policies and they've got big infrastructure, so they can't move quickly. Moving agent with Snap, with Ty Menzies and Rose Minart is a lot easier to start to get projects going, or Dan Summerlin with their Everlast. I think it comes down to, we all have this as well, Bryan, where sometimes it takes the leader to admit that they have a problem in a process and therefore the ambition to fix it. If you go into some organizations and tell them your funnel is a mess, you've got drop-offs left, right, and center, they'll look at you and they'll go, no, we haven't. They have no idea what the actual numbers are. But no, we haven't. And you're not going to be able to get that. So it doesn't matter what I'm selling them, that's not going to work. But if you can go into an operator and say, do you think your funnel's optimized at the moment? No, we don't. Do you think this could help you with the funnel? We do. Should we give this a go? Why not? Right? And then it just comes down to positioning. So I see lots of different types of operators. The franchises are always a different type of kettle of fish, because whilst they want to develop the technology as part of it, sometimes the way their business model does restrict them from putting investment into doing that stuff. Again, Snap gets credit in here for not being the case. But the types that I expect, Active Wellness would be a good description, I guess, in the US. Everlast, it's a big public operator. Gym Nation in the Middle East, again, Fitness First out in Asia. These are all brands which I think they have a technology bias or an interest, but also a problem they want to have solved.
Yeah, it's never the technology tool. It's always the organization, the people in it that are the biggest challenge, right? Isn't it? And I don't mean that despairingly. It's just it's difficult. It's difficult to find that alchemy, that dynamic that actually can take advantage of these things, especially at the speed with which they're changing. So with respect to this, Ian, what is separating, in your opinion, what your business and your tool, Keepme AI, is doing compared to some others? What do you find it to be the distinct or unique selling proposition of your platform?
I think the agent one is very simple. So you will find a number of products out there which will do this type of chat agent type aspect. The difference between a chat bot and an agent is that an agent actually owns a process from the beginning to the end without any human intervention and has the capability to take action. So the way we've built the agent is to have that capacity to be able to take actual real world actions. That tends to be the differentiator. I think the other aspect is that we've not tried to bite off too much. Our sector is still very driven. It's very acquisition driven, meaning that we are still after membership sales over retention. I don't care what people tell me, it's still always going to be membership sales. And with that being the case, the product is very much aligned to, can I demonstrably improve your leads, your tours, your trials, and your sales? And if I can't do that, then you'll switch me off. Correct, right? And I think the differentiator for us is that having had the ability to do that, we're quickly becoming integrated into the tech stack. That will then help us to then start to spread out into those member services, into collections, into recruitment, into the finance aspect, and start deploying more of these agents for operators to start being able to use overall.
Yeah, you got to start somewhere, and yes, the sales end is the
That's
most
just the right
attractive.
one. Listen, if anyone comes and sits in front of me, and anyone who comes and sits in front of you and says, I think I can increase your sales, I'm going to listen to them. I may not
Yeah.
believe them, but I will listen to them until he's proven wrong. Let's put it that way.
That is so true. And I think your commentary on that is interesting because what I've found is sometimes in other industries I've worked in, there's a disconnect between the technologist, kind of it's cool because it does these things, and the practical aspect of show me how I'm going to make more money on selling. That's a real business
Oh,
issue.
totally.
That's a use case versus, oh, this cool tool can do backflips, and okay, well, what does that mean?
Absolutely. And even the pricing model we've done it on has been based on the fact that we want to give. So we'll say to customers, take it on, but if it's not working, turn it off. I don't want to be there doing the work otherwise, right? So the nice thing for this is when you're the Keepme enterprise platform is a great retention platform. It's used by well over 50 operators around the world, thousands of clubs. And for many of them, they've got demonstrable retention improvements on that side.
Mm-hmm.
But I still struggle to get CEOs engaged around the subject. And when it comes around to renewal, it tends to be more around how deeply ingrained you are into their processes. When it comes to the agent, it's literally, we give them a control center which says to them every day how many tours it's booked, how many conversations, how many trials, and how many sales. And it doesn't matter what else is happening. At the end of the month, they're going to look at how much they pay me. They're going to look at how many of those are sales, and then they're going to make that calculation. And that's how I live or die. And that's the way I need to keep on innovating to make sure that relationship sustains.
So is a little technical question here. So with the platform, are you using SMS and email, and what kind of communication platforms are you adopting with respect to the interface with members and prospects?
So basically, if you go onto, say, a customer's website, they can communicate with you over web chat, SMS, WhatsApp, email, Instagram, Facebook, even voice. So you've got the capability that if I phone into an operator, or those famous inquiry forms where fill in these details, they're terrible performers for two reasons. First and foremost is when I fill them in, I'm full of passion for the brand. By the time I get a telephone call, I've probably moved on. And the second one, I think, which is also valid, is that in many cases, those forms just don't get phoned back by the salespeople. We found that out as well. So employing an agent so that when I fill out that form, she then phones me within a matter of 5 minutes and says, would you like to book your tour or trial, has seen an enormous increase on there. So we do it across all of the channels, both outbound and inbound, so that the agent ends up being able to nurture the relationship. So for instance, I book a tour, she sends me an email and an SMS, and then later on I find that I can't attend that tour. So I'll send an SMS to say I can't do the tour, and the agent will say, not a problem, can I rebook it for you? Yes, you can. And then on the day of the tour, the agent may telephone me and say, will you be attending today? And it's like, yeah, I can attend. And it'll update the CRM and it'll let everybody know that's coming in. And then for the no-shows, phone them up and then say to them, you weren't able to make it. And it's funny, when you're working with an AI agent, agents don't judge you. So when I didn't turn up because, quite frankly, lunch got extended and I couldn't be bothered to do the tour, I don't mind rebooking with the AI agent. But if the membership exec is phoning me up, I'm quickly blocking that call because I'm not explaining to them. I just couldn't be bothered to turn up. And that's where we're seeing some benefits, I think, as well.
Yeah, there's a few studies on this, one with therapy, where people that used AI therapists were far more comfortable in being honest about what was really going on in their lives than a human being. And that seems counterintuitive, but there's what you're describing is absolutely true. They feel less judged. They don't matter. Right. It makes sense. Right.
Yeah. Totally. I absolutely agree. And I think that that's an ongoing thing when it comes to difficult conversations. When you tell them that an AI agent's going to call them to make the appointment, with Gym Nation, you had an 80% increase in the quantity that took the telephone call. And people went, oh, it's a novelty value. It's not. It's because it's a transaction they want to make. They don't want to know about the weather, how you enjoyed your vacation, or to go through your pre-sales questionnaire. They just want to
That's right.
book an appointment, and then you can deal with it once you get over. And that's why they'll take the telephone call rather than if they say Ian from the membership team, they're like, yeah, no, I'll leave Ian for another day. Right?
That's so true. So true, Ian. And again, so counterintuitive, where people will talk about human interface, but humans are important, but on certain things, it's better to use a tool because of all the reasons that we're citing. And I don't know how many people really realize that.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're 100% right. But you're right, by the way, the human engagement is great. And the way we look at the agents as well is that its job is to nurture the funnel to the doorstep. And that's when people take over, because that human to human interaction is what is going to sell the club, not the selling, but the actual club itself will be that relationship. AI is not going to be doing that in the near future. So it's that marriage of AI and human, which is going to produce the super team when it comes to sales.
Yeah, that's right. The deft integration of human beings and technology are, I think, the secret sauce for the future of service.
Always, I agree.
Yeah, you're so right, Ian. So, you have a great background with your career, and, being a person that launches a business in a new and emerging technology is always a pretty interesting journey. In covering your background in the intro, I try to ask our guests about their pearls of wisdom. So having started this company and all the things you've done in your career, Ian, would you mind sharing your kind of thoughts, or what pearls of wisdom would you share for fitness professionals or entrepreneurs out there around doing what you've done, so that they may be able to benefit from your insights regarding what it takes to be successful?
Well, I think everything I've achieved in my entire career has come down to the people that I've chosen to work with and the people that are on the team. Every aspect of the performance of myself is due to the standard that exists around me. Every unique idea only becomes executed because of the team that's around you. I still think it is underappreciated, the power of a solid team. I am very fortunate that my CTO, for instance, has been with me for 18 years now. The person who runs engineering and product, 17 years, UK sales, 10 years, and we've been through multiples. And that understanding and environment that allows people to feel confident that they can try, that they can grow, and that there's a home for them for as long as they want. And that goes for me as well, by the way. I think that works. I'm a big believer in first principles and looking to keep things simple. I think people love to add complexity for the sake of adding complexity. And that sometimes makes me think that intellectually they're feeling challenged, and that complexity is their way of hiding behind it. So even with the subject of AI, I do my very best to simplify it at every stage. I spent quite a bit of time understanding it to a degree that I can explain it into that degree. And then I think that the final thing, Bryan, is always going to be that things never it doesn't come down to look all of the time, but look plays such an enormous part, and we will rewrite our own narratives, and we will take look out of that narrative time and time again. The biggest skill I probably have is just persistence. Just the unwillingness to admit I'm wrong sometimes is giving me the opportunity to push through to an unlikely outcome. And then I will admit then that luck probably played a large part in that. But if you can keep things simple, if you can surround yourself with the right people, and you can be persistent, then it doesn't matter whether you're an entrepreneur, if it's in your career, if it's in your family life, and it's life in general, you're going to enjoy some level of success, whatever that may be, because it's different for many, many people.
Yeah, I'm aligned with those thoughts from my own experience as well. And but the people around you are so important. KISS is core. Keep it simple, stupid. Absolutely. And then being persistent. I think that's a lot of wisdom right there. It may not sound super sexy, but in my background, that's been a key ingredient, all three, to the formula. So I think that's a lot of wisdom there, Ian.
Yeah, I think that the wisdom to be successful in business was written an awful long time ago, and it's people's nowadays lack of willingness to accept that what was still is, and are still looking for what could be, which stops a lot of people from actually achieving. And business is still fundamentally about the exchange of value between human beings, at least for the time being human beings. And that still requires a prerequisite set of skills, which quite frankly have been there since the start of time. It's not necessarily about newfangled strategies or tactics. Do the big things right and the small things consistently, and you'll do okay.
I think there's a lot of truth in that, Ian. Well, listen, good luck with your presentation at Performix. In the show notes, everyone, we're going to have how to get in touch with Ian and his team, learn more about Keepme AI. Thanks for joining the Fitness Industry Technology Council as well, Ian. I've been a big fan, and our industry really owes you and your team a lot of credit for bringing the future of technology applications to the world. And so I got nothing but respect and admiration for your efforts. Thanks for making time to visit, and I hope to see you really soon in person.
Thanks for having me on, Bryan.
Hello, listeners. This is Bryan O'Rourke, and thanks so much for listening to the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast. The podcast is made possible by the Fitness Industry Technology Council, a consortium of global brands working together to enhance the adoption of technologies in the fitness space. Our company, Videri Ventures, which is invested in Vertimax, Montezuma, Gold's Gym, Houston, Texas, and Fitness 24/7 Thailand, also underwrites the podcast, along with our service companies, Integris Advisors, Moon Mission Media, and others. Please feel free to share this podcast with your colleagues. And if I can be of any assistance to you, don't hesitate to reach out, bryanko'rourke@gmail.com, or find me on any of the major social networks. Have a great day, and thanks for listening.